What if the most dangerous quarterback in the NFL draft just got paired with the most terrifying weapon the game has ever seen?
The most dangerous move the Cleveland Browns could make this offseason is not in the draft at all, but going out and adding one of the fastest, most feared playmakers of this era to line up with Shedeur Sanders. Yeah, dog pound. Just picture it for a second. Shedeur Sanders and Todd Monken's offense rolling out, buying time, defense creeping down, and then boom, Tyreek Hill flying across the screen, taking one touch and turning it into a house call.
Picture this. Cleveland Browns, fresh offense, new head coach, and a rookie quarterback who is doubted by every team in the league, standing next to a guy who turned entire defenses into nervous wrecks for a decade. Shedeur Sanders, Tyreek Hill. Same huddle, same playbook, same mission. You think this isn't real? Keep watching, because the football case for this is absolutely wild.
Tyreek Hill's still worth the gamble. Like, that's how desperate you are for a receiver right now. Traditionally, I'd be all on board. I'm sick of these guys that go against culture, especially with the first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. I got to check all my traditional football beliefs at the door, though. I want to win. I want to win so bad. And I know I'm probably not winning the Super Bowl next year. I know I'm probably just going to have to take the whole season to develop Shedeur Sanders and figure out what I have
There's a plethora of guys.
I'll get you up to speed on what's happening with Tyreek Hill, the free agent for the first time in his career, receiver. Will play in 2026, according to his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, appearing on the Stephen A. Smith show. Rosenhaus said Hill is waiting for medical clearance before he signs with a contender in 2026, said Rosenhaus of Hill. He had a really tough injury. This wasn't your run-of-the-mill ACL. It was a multiple ligament injury, and he absolutely is on track for the start of the regular season. In talking to Tyreek, our focus is on getting him back to 100%. I spoke to his doctors recently.
Let's start with Shedeur Sanders. And let's start with the truth. This kid was supposed to be a top 5 pick. Scouts loved his arm. Coaches loved his poise. Colorado fans watched him throw darts in the face of pressure week after week and thought, this is the real thing. And then draft night happened. Round 1 went by, Shedeur wasn't called. Round 2 went by, still nothing. Round 3, round 4, silence. By the time the Cleveland Browns took him in the 5th round, pick 144, the football world was stunned. Not because Shedeur was bad, but because everyone knew this kid deserved better. He slipped, and he slipped hard. And now he's got something to prove that no quarterback in recent memory has had burning inside them on day 1. That kind of fire, that's not a liability. That's a weapon. But here's where it gets really interesting. At almost the exact same moment Shedeur's draft story was unfolding, something else was happening across the league. Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, one of the most electrifying receivers in NFL history, was officially released by the Miami Dolphins, cut loose with a failed physical designation after a brutal multi-ligament knee injury. No contract, no team, free agent for the very first time in his career. And that's when the question nobody could stop asking started floating around football circles. What if the Browns made the move? Just picture it, Shedeur Sanders in Todd Monken's offense, a system built on pace, spacing, and explosive mismatches. The Browns already have Jerry Jeudy working the intermediate routes. They have Harold Fannin Jr. feasting in the seams. The run game is there, the pieces are there. But Tyreek Hill? Tyreek Hill is the piece that changes the math entirely. Here's what people forget about Tyreek Hill. He's not just fast, he's pressure. Pure psychological pressure. Before the ball is even snapped, safeties are already backing up, cornerbacks are already nervous, defensive coordinators are already burning a coverage adjustment just to account for where he might line up. You haven't even called the play yet, and the defense is already in trouble.
Todd Monken officially became Browns head coach on January 28th, and his background is built on creating explosive, flexible offenses that stress defenses with pace, spacing, and mismatches. Browns.com's coverage has also stressed that Monken is evaluating Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson, and Dylan Gabriel in a real competition, with reps not necessarily divided equally. So imagine what Tyreek Hill would mean in that structure. He's not just a receiver, he is pressure, he is panic.
Line him up outside. They double him. Slot opens up. Put him in motion. The linebacker panics. Underneath routes open. Send him deep on a wheel route. The safety bites. The tight end walks into the end zone. That's not just a receiver. That's a chess piece that changes the entire board. And Shedeur Sanders, he is exactly the kind of quarterback who thrives in that environment. His whole college career at Colorado, he was at his best when he had dynamic targets who could create separation and give him clean throwing windows. He's a processor. He's a decision maker. He reads the field, resets, and fires. Give him a receiver that defenses genuinely fear, and that processing becomes the deadliest thing in the NFL. But this is where things get complicated. Miami released Hill with a failed physical. That means his knee, a torn ACL plus multiple ligament damage, wasn't where the Dolphins needed it to be. His agent, Drew Rosenhaus, went on national television and said Hill is on track and will be ready for the start of the 2026 season. The doctors are reportedly pleased with his progress. The timeline is moving in the right direction. But any team that signs Tyreek Hill has to make a real choice. You're not just signing a receiver, you're signing a question. And that question is, how much is left? He'll turn 32 years old. He's coming off one of the most gruesome injuries a skill position player can suffer, and there's a personal conduct investigation still hanging over his name from allegations that surfaced last September. So the risk is real. No one is pretending it isn't. But here's what's also real, and this part matters more than people give it credit for. The Cleveland Browns need to know which Shedeur Sanders is, not in 3 years, now. Head coach Todd Monken came to Cleveland to build something explosive. The front office has 2 first-round picks this draft, and they are actively working to upgrade the receiver room. They're in construction mode around the quarterback position, and the fastest way, the single most direct way to find out if Shedeur Sanders is a franchise quarterback is to surround him with franchise-level weapons and watch what happens. You give him Tyreek Hill, and suddenly every defensive coordinator in the NFL has to sleep a little less soundly before a Browns game. You give him Tyreek Hill, and Shedeur isn't just competing for a roster spot, he's competing for the job with a real weapon in his hands.
Tyreek Hill changes the vibe of a room. He changes how corners line up. He changes how coordinators call games. Even if he is not the exact same player he was at his absolute peak, the fear factor still travels. The Browns need explosiveness. They need stress-inducing speed. They need a receiver who can turn Shedeur's confidence into instant offense. That is what Tyreek Hill could bring if the medicals check out and the price makes sense. And if you paired that with another lineman or receiver from the draft.
No one expected what came next in draft night. But what happens next in Cleveland could be even bigger. Because here's something that never gets talked about enough. Tyreek Hill changes the locker room. He changes the vibe. He walks in the building and the temperature goes up. His energy, the swagger, the confidence, the belief that every single play can go the distance, that transfers. Young quarterbacks absorb that. A 5th-round pick trying to claw his way to starter, he would feed off that every single day. And even if Hill isn't the same player he was at 26, even if he's running at 90% of his peak, 90% of Tyreek Hill is still a nightmare. Corners still can't leave him. Safeties still can't cheat. The fear still travels. The space still opens. And Shedeur still benefits. Jerry Jeudy works the mid-range, Fannin Jr. handles the seams, the run game works off lighter boxes, and Hill is the vertical threat that makes the entire structure dangerous from the first snap to the last. That's not maybe improved, that's a completely different offense. Here's the beauty of the logistics too. Unlike chasing a trade target, Hill is already off Miami's roster. The Browns don't have to give up draft picks just to get his rights. The real conversations are medical clearance, contract dollars, and whether Andrew Berry and the front office want to go big on a proven veteran instead of building entirely through the draft. That's a real choice. It's not easy, But if the Browns truly believe in Shedeur Sanders, and every sign out of Cleveland says they're giving him a legitimate shot, then putting Tyreek Hill across from him isn't gambling, it's investing. It's saying we believe in this kid, and we're going to find out right now. And from a pure football standpoint, Shedeur Sanders, Tyreek Hill, Jerry Jeudy, Harold Fannin Jr., Todd Monken dialing it up. That is a vision. That is a real, terrifying, beautiful football vision. The doubters said Shedeur wouldn't even get drafted in round 1. They slept on him, they passed on him, and now he's in Cleveland with a chip on his shoulder the size of the entire state of Ohio, in an offense built for explosiveness, with a chance to prove every single one of those teams wrong. All he might need is one more weapon to make the whole thing undeniable. Dog pound, if the Browns get aggressive, if the medicals check out, if the price makes sense, this offense could go from overlooked to absolutely feared in a hurry. And Shedeur Sanders, he might just make every team that passed on him regret it for the next decade. The story isn't over, it's just getting started. So Pound, would you take the gamble? Would you bring Tyreek Hill to Cleveland to help Shedeur Sanders light up this league? Drop your take in the comments right now. And if you believe in Shedeur, if you think this kid is about to shut everybody up, hit that subscribe button because we are going to be watching every step of this journey together. This is just the beginning.